So Donald Trump was questioned on foreign policy. I think this was his pre-Super Bowl interview. And there's so much to say about everything here. So at first you're going to see he's actually taking the left position, but then randomly towards the middle/end of the interview, he flips it, and all of a sudden he's back on the right. And it's just, I mean, this interview encapsulates Donald Trump so well because he's just a massive walking contradiction. He says everything at once. He's just kind of like a babbling, incoherent mess. But take a look, and then we'll discuss.
Republicans voted, vast majority of them said that they don't support what you're doing, that what you're doing risks national intelligence by a precipitous withdrawal from Syria and Afghanistan. Doesn't that concern you?
I ran against 17 Republicans. This was a big part of what I was saying, and I won very easily. I think the people out in the world, I think people in our country agree. We've been fighting for 19 years. Somebody said you're precipitously bringing to... Precipitously, we've been there for 19 years. I want to fight, I want to win, and we want to bring our great troops back home. I've seen the people. I go to Walter Reed Hospital. I see what happens to people. I see with no legs and no arms, and I've seen also what happens to them up here because they're in this situation and they come back and they're totally different people where the wives and the fathers and the mothers say, what has happened to my son? What has happened in some cases to my daughter? It's a terrible thing. We've been there close to 19 years, and it's time. Now, we'll see what happens with the Taliban. They want peace. They're tired. Everybody's tired. We'd like to have, I don't like endless wars. This war, what we're doing is got to stop at some point.
But you also campaigned saying that, you know, President Obama made a big mistake by telegraphing his military moves. You're telegraphing your retreat.
Anything. No. There's a difference. When President Obama pulled out of Iraq, in theory, we had Iraq. In other words, we had Iraq. We never had Syria because President Obama never wanted to violate the red line in the sand. So we never had Syria. I was the one that actually violated the red line when I hit Syria with 59 Tomahawk missiles, if you remember. But President Obama chose not to do that. When he chose not to do that, he showed tremendous weakness. But we didn't have Syria, whereas we had Iraq. So when he did what he did in Iraq, which was a mistake, being in Iraq was a mistake. Okay, being in Iraq, it was a big mistake to go. One of the greatest mistakes going into the Middle East that our country has ever made. One of the greatest mistakes that we've ever made.
But you want to keep troops there now.
When it was chosen, well, we spent a fortune on building this incredible base. We might as well keep it. And one of the reasons I want to keep it is because I want to be looking a little bit at Iran, because Iran is a real problem.
Whoa, that's news. You're keeping troops in Iraq because you want to be able to strike in Iran?
No, because I want to be able to watch Iran. All I want to do is be able to watch. We have an unbelievable and expensive military base built in Iraq. It's perfectly situated for looking at all over different parts of the troubled Middle East.
Okay, so let's go through this. At first, he's asked, hey, you know, you're drawing down in Syria and Afghanistan, and your party is against you on that. So why would you do that? Your own intelligence agencies are saying, no, don't pull out of Syria and Afghanistan. And they're saying it threatens national security. Utter nonsense. And he starts defending the anti-war position. He's like, listen, I don't like endless wars. Everybody's tired. We've been there forever. What's the point? And everything he's saying on those issues makes sense. Now, the devil's in the details. And guess what? We're not actually getting out of those places. So Trump had announced, we're getting out of Syria. Well, then a few days later, he came out and said, I didn't say fast. And John Bolton said, we're going to keep a bunch of troops there. So it was, we're going to pull out of Syria. Then it was, no, not really. Pump your brakes. We're not pulling out of Syria. We're going to leave some troops there. And then the case of Afghanistan, we had 14,000 troops there. And now he's withdrawing the number, lowering the number to 7,000. So that's not a withdrawal. To make it seem like, oh my God, we're ending the war. We're not ending the war. You can't have 7,000 troops in a foreign country and say, this is the end of the war. No, it's not. That's not the end of it. You're still there. And there's still thousands of troops there. So as he's arguing for the anti-war position on Syria and Afghanistan, his actions are saying we're going to stay there. And furthermore, there's been countless articles now in regards to Syria and Afghanistan that he's considering Blackwater staying there. So private mercenary army with a Christian fundamentalist leading it, still being in Syria and Afghanistan. So even though he's arguing for the left position, He's not actually implementing it. Now, I'll leave it up to you to figure out why that is. Is it just because, he's surrounded by the neocons and the neocons are telling him, oh yeah, sure, we're going to get out, and then they're keeping them there? Or is it because he's also in on that and he knows that it's better for his reelection to say we're going to get out, but then he's going to keep us there and pretend like we're getting out? I don't know. I don't know if he's in on it or if he's not in on it or whatever the case is, but we are staying in Syria and Afghanistan even though he's arguing to get out of there. Now, furthermore, he flips towards the middle/end of that interview. Because then when we bring up Iraq, all of a sudden he's like, we got to stay there. What? Well, we got to stay there to look at Iran. What? The only reason Iran is even an issue is because you pulled out of the Iran deal. Do you not get that? That deal was in place, and the whole point of it was Iran's not going to get a nuclear weapon, and we're going to verify that by using the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. They're going to regulate Iran. They're going to go in there. They're going to do regular checks. And according to the IAEA, Iran, every single time they did the inspections, Iran was 100% in compliance with the deal. We pulled out of it anyway. We pulled out of the deal anyway, even though they were in compliance with it, and we pretended like they were violating it. No, we violated it. In fact, we violated it when we passed sanctions on them in the Senate. So we violated it. We blame them even though we violated it. They're still abiding by it to this day because they're trying to salvage it with Europe. Europe, because it just wasn't the U.S. and Iran in the deal. Europe was involved. Other countries in the world were involved. So, you know who's being hawkish on Iran? You. You are. John Bolton is. And then, by the way, as he was given the anti-war arguments for Syria and Afghanistan, what are you doing right now in Venezuela? You're backing an illegal coup. You're saying the military option is still on the table. You're having John Bolton in control of that. The neocon's neocon, the biggest warmongering, warhawk, bloodthirsty maniac in the fucking country, is in charge of what's happening with Venezuela. So Donald Trump is a fucking mess. He doesn't have a philosophy. He's incoherent. He's surrounded by the biggest warhawks in the country, and even when he bothers to pay lip service to anti-war positions, he's not even being anti-war in terms of the policy he's implementing. Even in regards to Syria and Afghanistan, where he says we're going to get out, we're not getting out. So it's just fucking frustrating. And, you have Iran, they're pushing towards war. Venezuela, they're pushing towards war. What are you doing, man? This has to stop. This has to stop. And the media is such a mess. She thinks she was being adversarial there in that line of questioning. But everything she said in regards to Syria and Afghanistan, it was adversarial from a right-wing position. It was, oh my God, your rhetoric is anti-war on Syria and Afghanistan. Our intelligence agencies say we shouldn't get out of those countries. Why the fuck are you taking them at their word like it's gospel? Our intelligence agencies got us into an illegal offensive war in Iraq and lied us into it. So stop taking their word the intelligence agencies, No, you're supposed to question them too because they're in positions of power. But they don't do that. It's just, intelligence agencies say we should stay in war forever. Why don't you agree with them? First of all, he does agree with them. Second of all, why are you being adversarial from the right? Be adversarial from the left, which is where the American people are, because they don't want us in these endless wars. Jesus Christ. So anyway, that was frustrating to see that back and forth for all the reasons I stated, and let's just get out of all these wars. It's driving me crazy.